Hello everyone, welcome to Social Studies class. Today we shall be discussing the topic democracy. What is democracy? Let us see the meaning of democracy. Now, democracy, according to Abraham Lincoln, the 60th President of the United States of America, he defined democracy as government of the people, for the people, and by the people. The implication of that is that democracy is that kind of government where the citizens are allowed to choose their leaders through voting. A situation where the citizens are allowed to choose their leaders through voting. Okay? That is what we mean by democracy, where the wishes of the majority will always carry the day. Now, the practice of democracy varies from countries to countries, and because of that, we are going to look at types of democracy. Now, we have what we call representative democracy. Now, by far, the most common form of democracy across the world is representative democracy. Okay? If you live in a representative democracy, you will vote in the people who will represent you at the regional, to the legislative, and the executive level. You vote in people that will represent you. Now, this small group of politicians are supposed to represent the needs and the thoughts of the people that voted them in. Okay? You vote in your representative. Don't forget that in Nigeria, before you are qualified to vote, you must have attained the age of 18 years and above. If you are below 18 years and above in Nigeria, you are not qualified to vote. Okay? Now, apart from the representative government, we also have what we call parliamentary democracy. In a parliamentary democracy, the power is given to the legislative branch of the government through the parliament and the prime minister. In parliamentary democracy, we have what we call the prime minister. Now, this government also have an executive branch, but the executive has less power. Okay? The power is vested on the prime minister and the legislative and the parliament. Yes, the prime minister and the parliament. Now, let me give you a good example of parliamentary democracy. A good example is the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is a great example of a parliamentary democracy. Now, in the United Kingdom, the parliament is broken down into the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Yes. Now, these two houses, along with the Prime Minister, work hand in hand to make laws, to check government spending, and to review the work of the government. The judicial branch is headed by a monarch. In this case, the monarch in the United Kingdom is the Queen. So the United Kingdom is a very good example of parliamentary democracy. Okay? Where you have those two houses, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Okay? Alright. Apart from representative democracy and parliamentary democracy, we still have other forms of government. Democracy. We have the presidential democracy. Now, a presidential democracy is the opposite of a parliamentary democracy. In a presidential democracy, the executive branch has the power is more powerful, unlike in the parliamentary democracy where we say the executive has less power. In presidential democracy, the executive is vested with great power. Now, the people elect a president to head the government. However, the president is kept in check by the legislative branch. A good example of presidential democracy is Nigeria and the United States of America. Yes, Nigeria and the United States. The United States and Nigeria are good examples of presidential democracies. Yes, they are good examples of presidential democracies. The executive branch includes the president and his cabinet. The president and his cabinet. The cabinet here, we are talking about the ministers and all the special advisors, okay, and the special assistants of the president. They made up his cabinet. Now, along with the judicial and the legislative branch, the three branches of government work to keep checks and balances, and the president has the final say. Okay? Now, while the executive and the legislative branch of the government are there to check what the executive are doing, the executive too check what the judiciaries are doing, and including the legislative branch. Now, apart from this presidential democracy, we have another form of democracy called authoritarian democracy. Authoritarian democracy. In an authoritarian democracy, some people, specifically the wealthy and the elite, they are the ones that direct the power of the government. Now, in authoritarian democracy, government is a kind of democracy that is headed by a few individuals, the rich, and that is the elite. The rich and the elite among the people, they are the one that determines what happens. Okay? Now, this type of government is no longer common in our society today. However, some scholars will tell you that Russia under Vladimir Putin, is still operating the authoritarian democracy. It still has some element of authoritarian democracy. Okay? It's a government by just a few individuals, the wealthy ones, that see themselves as the lords of the people that take charge. Okay? Then the last one is religious democracy. Religious democracy. Now, in religious democracy is where secular laws and the people meet to create a principle of the government. The most common example is an Islamic democracy. Now, in an Islamic democracy is where the laws of Islam guide the policy creation of the country. Okay? The leaders of this democracy must also follow the teachings of Islam. However, these leaders are elected to their position by the people. Let's take an example. Afghanistan and Pakistan have executive, judicial, and legislative branch of government that are guided by laws of Islam and the Holy Quran. This government also have a constitution and representatives are chosen by the people. Another example, good example of religious democracy can be found in when we talk about the Vatican, where the Pope is the head of the state. Okay? And every laws made in the Vatican is being guided by the Catholic doctrines. Yes. So we call them religious democracy. Now, I have listed here a few countries, because there are so many countries that practice democracy, that practice one form of democracy or another. Now, some countries that practice democracy include Nigeria, Norway, Ghana, South Africa, the United States of America, Finland, Iceland, and so many of them. So at the end of this video, you are going to make a list. You are going to do a research on countries that practice democracy. You are going to make a research and you list them out for me continent by continent. Okay, that is the project that you are going to do for me after watching this video. You are going to make a list continent by continent, countries that practice democracy. Have a lovely day.